And we're back with some more oxygen not included. And the map is getting more and more flooded. Well, I keep leaving it run overnight, and the flooding just keeps getting worse and worse. It's excellent. Now, there is one few things we have to do. One, we have to go over how much extra water we're getting with all the extra rockets. We stuck in 8 steam rockets, and we went from getting 2 kilos at the top, or 4 kilos at the top here, to another 2, 4, 6, 8, well, not quite 10, say 9 kilos. We got an extra 9 kilos of water per second out of this whole system. Oh, and I should probably point out again, a few people might have missed this. We do have a few other sections where we're extracting water. Like you can see over here, we're extracting 6 kilos here from these 3 steam turbines. This is plugged directly in here. And then we've got the same thing going on down here, where we're extracting another 6 kilos directly. That's 12 kilos from there. And then another 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 kilos from there. So that's 24, say 25 kilos of water per second from this entire system. Now, people have gone on a lot about there's different ways of maybe mitigating the steam escape through here. But long story short, I need to do some more testing on this. But each one of those tiles is absorbing 100 grams of gas per second. 100 grams. That's the maximum amount each tile can absorb. That's 14 tiles right there. Yep, so it's hard to see there. That's 14 tiles. And this over here is also 14 tiles. That's 28 tiles. That's 2.8 kilos of water per second is being lost through there. We could put in doors. We could put in all sorts of things. But if we put in doors, then every time we open them, the steam from this side will pressurize that side. And then, yeah, unless we keep the doors closed for like a cycle or so, the steam will still be there when we come back, so we'll still be losing the same amount of steam. What we need to do is keep the doors closed for long periods of time, which means we need to sync up all the rockets so they all launch and land at the same time. And then we can open it, let all the rockets out, and then close it. But that starts getting really complicated. And I figure it's 2.8 kilos. Who cares? It's 2.8 kilos of water per second on a chimney that we're, extracting 25 kilos? So we're losing we're losing a little bit over 10% of the steam. I can live with that. Considering the ease of use this provides, that is perfectly acceptable. Oh, yes, the reason we came back in as well, the water tank's kind of hot. And I am going to have to let this run overnight a few more times. So before that happens, we should maybe get into the bit of, starting to cool it down so it's not going to be quite so hot. We want to freeze this, or at least get it so cold that it's like just above freezing point. So, one moment, please. For cooling, we're going with the good old-fashioned brute force and ignorance approach. We've got aquatutors. Basically, all of these areas are already plugged into the main power spine, and they're already set up with steam turbines above them. That's just perfectly set up for cooling. So all we're doing is we're sticking in 2 aquatutors into each one of them. Oop. Game's a little bit chuggish when we press the piping overlay for some reason. I don't know why. It's just getting temperamental that way. We put in 2 aquatutors, 2 here, and then we set them to say, yeah, if you're above 5C, yeah, we want you to switch on, and we'll switch on those two, and those 2. And that should inject a nice chunk of cooling. However, I'd like to point out, this is super coolant, so it's about twice as good as water. And each one reduces the liquid going through it by 14 degrees, which is super coolant, but that's the equivalent of reducing, say, 10 kilos of water by 28 degrees, roughly. And we've only got 6 of them. So we're able to roughly cool down, say, 20 kilos of 95C water to 10 degrees. So that's not enough. This is not enough cooling to actually keep up with the amount of heat we're injecting because, how much water are we injecting again? We're injecting well over 24 kilos of water just from the rocket chimney. Then, damn it, I lost my notes. Having a look at all our vents and geysers and their emission rates and all that, it's just about under 19 kgs of water from all of our vents, geysers, steam vents, all that stuff. And we're getting about 25 from the rocket chimney, which works out as about 44 kilos of water per second with all the sources included, and all that stuff's coming out at 95C. It's all going through a steam turbine somewhere. I'm trying to think of any of them that don't go through a steam turbine, but I got nothing. Oh, actually, wait, no. Some of the stuff is going through water sieves because we got a lot of overflow on this. I need to find a way to deal with the excess that's coming out of these ones. That thing's like, it backs up on me, so I'm not really careful, which I need to be more careful with that. But that stuff's also coming out close to 95C, so we're going to need at least 14 aquatuners running supercoolant to keep up with just the output of what we've currently got before we can even start digging into the backlog. So that's 2, 4, 6 aquatuners. Right. So we just need to put in another 8. Probably 10 or 12. Actually, what's our power at? Oh, we're up to the 30 kilowatt mark. Once we start hitting the 40 to 45, I'm going to have to start easing off on the power draw. Or I'm going to have to start splitting the power grid so we don't start overloading the heavy watt wire. Not a problem you normally have, but we're going to be doing a lot of brute force cooling. Just so much brute force cooling. Give me another minute here. So, I may have gotten a little distracted, or maybe a lot distracted. The map may look a little bit more flooded than it was beforehand. It's been like about 400 or 500 cycles. I let it run a little bit overnight and did some tweaking. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cooling loops with twin aquatuners hooked up to each. That's 16 aquatuners kicking in the cooling. It's done good. This whole side of the map is now, well, pretty much 20 degrees up there. Down here, it's down to 16. We did have to split the power grid. A bit of a problem with overloading. Well, we were close to overloading. Not here. I was almost going to split it there, but then I ended up splitting it here. This part here is split off from the rest. So this is drawing now. Potential load is 45 kgs, but it's only, or kilowatts, but it's only drawing 23, 24. Because it's running long enough that not all the aquatuners need to run anymore. The other half's only drawing 22 kilowatts. Having the two together when it was spinning up and doing all the cooling was, well, it didn't cause any overloads because we split it in time, but it definitely would have. Now, we've got a lot of submerged areas, but we're starting to get up to the ethanol, so I need to take care of that now. Everything else is pretty much holding out as good as it should. Oh, and for context, here is the water sieves that were earlier filtering out this stuff. Yeah, no, they're well submerged, which means we've got a backlog of polluted water. Okay, I'll take care of that next. First, what I want to do is move this ethanol storage up to space. That whole ethanol thing I've been meaning to take care of for a while. And then, these geotuners. I need to make a geotuner area where we have multiple geotuners to pump a bunch of our these things over here. I'm thinking we can dump saltwater geyser, this one, and there's a second saltwater geyser down here. I'm thinking we can dump the output from both of those into the actual chimney. We'll have to get more steam turbines to actually bleed heat out, but I think it's very doable. But we'll worry about that in a minute. For now, this whole ethanol setup needs to move upstairs to space so that we can dispose of the output from it, namely all of the carbon dioxide that's starting to clog up the place. It's not pretty at all, but it should do the job. So the plan here is these 3 ethanol distilleries can be automatically fed by these auto sweepers. This will produce all the ethanol we need to keep our crops growing. This ethanol comes down here, and then it's going to flow in this direction and get fed into all of the plants that need it. And you'll notice there's a feeder line also coming up from down here. We took all of the ethanol that was in the liquid tank down here, and we've stuck them into storage tanks. This way, it doesn't matter if it gets submerged for now. And once all of this is gone, we can rip it out. Because there's a priority flow here. So the priority is to get rid of all of the ethanol in the tanks, and then it'll switch to the upstairs. And this upstairs build, all of the polluted dirt that's going to come out of these, dumped into the conveyor loaders, it goes down here, gets dumped into the conveyor receptacles, and then it gets fed into the composts. Automatically. Compost will still have to be manually turned by duplicates, so that's why we've got the transit tube accesses in here. However, ethanol distilleries produce carbon dioxide, and the pressure will keep rising and rising and rising. We've got a little automated sensor here. When it goes above 10 kilos of gas pressure, these 2 doors open, and they can vent the gas out here. 1 second. Close it up again. And we'll be sealing this in with airflow tiles so that we can be flooding the rest of the map. There is a lot of changes and things I've been doing, just little bits on the side. It's just, there's so many little things. Okay. So down here, we used to have transit tube access coming in from the bottom. I got rid of it. I didn't want to risk having an upward one. You see, it's to do with the water pressure. Now, you see this water pressure here? It's dropping rapidly. What we're getting is sort of waves. The pressure forces the water down, and then the water springs back up again. So normally what we do would say, just say we had a transit tube access here. We'd put in a blob of liquid that would float on top, and that blob of liquid, say 10 kilos of, visco gel or something like that, would float on top, and that visco gel would stop the water pressure here building up to above 1,400 kilos and causing damage, or 12, or whatever it is that'll break plastic. But with the waves going up and down, that means that we'd have to make sure the water stayed above the line, and it was just too much effort. Now, heavy watt joint plates are pretty much indestructible as far as I can tell. The pressure required to break them is more than can be naturally achieved, no matter how much water pressure you pile on top of each other. So they should be fine. However, there is one transit tube access we're going to have to do that's going to be facing downwards. And I think I have an idea on how to fix that with some aerogel. Well, it's an aerogel. We'll go through that in a bit. But next up, I want to move all of these animals. These animals have been stuck here because, well, they're on one tile. We just have a little conveyor loader below it and an auto sweeper, and basically all the eggs get dumped back onto this tile. Any of them that drop eggs along the side, they get picked up by the auto sweeper and dumped back on top. Yeah, this whole area, I want to use it for other stuff, namely geotuners. We want to fill this area out with geotuners. We also want to rip out these large power transformers, and then we can stick in at least 2 rows of geotuners there, and probably a 3rd row in here, and maybe a 4th one in here. Yeah, we're going to be using a lot of geotuners for what we've got coming. But for now, all we're doing is moving all the animals up here. Basically the same setup as down below, but we're just putting in some visco gel. This should keep the whole thing cool for, like, I don't know, several thousand cycles, if not like 10,000. It just, same thing, all the eggs get shunted up to the top, the animals stay up here, and they shouldn't overcrowd, and they give us a bit of free meat occasionally. None of them eat meat there, so any meat that does drop, our people can go along, collect it, pick it up. Over here, we've put in a mechanized airlock, and we've got a fire pole and a plastic ladder going all the way to the top of the map. Should probably put in some transit tube access, but there's no rush on that front just yet. I know none of this is really big projects, but it's just there's so many little things we need done before the water level rises up and starts submerging the base. We just have to waterproof everything and put in a few extra bits and bobs. Like, we still have to get around to geotuning these saltwater geysers, and I think I've got an idea of how to do that. And use the chimney here to actually bleed off the resources. We'll do a little bit more on that. But for now, what I want to do, move all those animals out of the way, and wall in, say, down here, and make sure that this transit tube access can pass through airflow tiles. So without breaking, we'll do some more testing on that. And we want to move all of those power blocks inside. So there's a bunch of power transformers over here that are feeding the base. But now that we've got these inside, we should just be able to rewire the base slightly so that everything's being fed from the inside. All we've done here is just run some power wires from these transformers that we put down here ages ago. And those, well, basically just run power wires into the 3 existing grids we have over here. So now we should, in theory, be able to sever these 3 right here. Like that. And they're all still powered. What we've also done at the same time is maybe split up the grids a little bit better. This one's got 2100 watts of potential draw, 3600, and this one's 3200 watts. Just, we were having a little bit too much power. One of them had like about 6000 potential watts, but you have to remember things like these. They say they're drawing 120 watts, but they only do that when a suit is in there charging, like right there now. That's the only time they actually draw power. The rest of the time, they're doing nothing. Same with auto sweepers, conveyor loaders, stuff like that. They only draw power when they're in use. So you can put huge amounts of them on a wire without it overloading. It's just the statistical likelihood of it happening. And plus, even if it does overload it for a second, that's normally not enough to cause damage. So generally, you're far safe. You're safe with it. It's just, we want it to be more careful, let's just say. All right, let me do a little bit of tidy up and get rid of those transformers. We want to re-terraform this whole place. And gone. We ripped out all those power transformers and we replaced them with a bunch of geotuners. And a time has arisen for us to do some changes. This cool slush geyser down here has 5 geotuners tagged into it. It's going to be, and whatchamacallit, these ones here, the ones that are connected up to it, they have about 3% of their data remaining. As in, once that data is expired, we're going to need to, well, redo the tuning, which costs resources and money and time and stuff. So right about there. So you're done. We want you to have no geyser selected, and instead, we'll have this one take over. Oh, no. Yep. Okay, it seems we have to actually disengage the first ones before we can engage new ones. Okay, so you, experimentation, no geyser selected. That should mean 1, 2, 3, 4, and you. No geyser selected. Once that kicks in, that means the cool slush geyser is getting no boosts. Which means we can now grab this one down here and say, yeah, kick it in. Perfect. Then we can copy the settings over to either 4. That did not take even slightly. Yeah, okay, there we go, fine. Now, this is going to require, what do you call it, bleachstone. So you got to feed these things bleachstone to make it work. I figure we automate it. All of our bleachstone is being produced down here. So we just select this to fill up with bleachstone. The automated feeder can start dumping it in there, and we've got it on rails. Reason being, well, there's like 10 to 15 kilos of carbon dioxide pressure, so it shouldn't be able to leak, or it shouldn't be able to off gas. And even if it did, we don't really care. This area, like everything outside of these doors, everyone's in atmo suit, so it doesn't really matter what happens. All right, everyone's getting to work on geotuning. Good job. We actually have about 3 duplicates assigned to that. I'd love to hire more duplicates, but I'm worried. Like, the game's already chuggish, and I have to keep restarting it regularly. So the more dupes I hire, the worse that's going to become. We're going to try and cut down on pathing and stuff later on, but for now, we need full access to the map. For example, like if we want to cut off these ladder segments here, well, they're going to land there, which means we still need to get there to get them. We can't really cut it all the ladder segments until most of the map is flooded, which is kind of awkward and is going to take up a little bit of processing power for all of the potential pathing calculations. But it'll be fine. We'll just keep a low number of dupes and it should be okay. All right, with that kicked in, we can actually start modifying this. Namely because, well, we kind of want to get a standardized size. This one here with the weird up and down light fixtures was a bit of a wonky donk thing we just threw in to get started, namely because these things' maximum room size is 112 tiles, or is it 120? 120 tiles. So just fitting in the prerequisite amount we wanted required us to be a little bit more creative. But now that we've got more space and we've cleared out some areas, in fact, I'm pretty sure we could... Good, that's 30 tiles long. Could we fit you in there? Oh, yes, we could. Just about. I'd be able to stick in another lab on the ground floor. We're about those batteries. We don't need them there anyway. Done. We've now moved all of the geotuners over to the actual permanent lab facilities that are going to be sealed nicely. The plan is to seal in the base pretty much all the way around the outside with airflow tiles, probably including this bit. We're basically going to take a giant chunk in the center of the map and seal it off. That way we leave ourselves some remodeling space if we need some extra space for who knows what. That does leave us a little bit of a problem down here, but we'll solve that in a minute. Just let me rip out this old geotuner setup. We don't need this anymore. Well, just yet, but we'll put in a proper lab instead. That looks more like an industrial scale laboratory. We just copy pasted them basically one above the other. Okay, I had to move some things around, but once I'd made this one down here, I realized why not leave the space here? If we leave this space, we can put in more transport tube accesses, which we're probably going to need once we've sealed everyone inside, and their only way in and out will be through the transport tubes. Also probably going to eat into our power, but I think power generation's fine right now. Though we do need to do a little bit of testing. I want to figure out precisely how we can make sure this is a perfectly safe... We're going to have to seal this up in some way that's perfectly safe, and I have an idea. We just got to do some testing. And at the same time, we're going to do some testing on this. I'm pretty sure I know exactly how this works and how much water it's losing us, but let's just do some testing to be 100% sure. The first thing we're going to want to test is space exposure. That's this area up here. There's 14 tiles of it there, 14 tiles of it there. That's 28 tiles of it. And according to the WikiGG website, each one of those tiles absorbs 100 grams of gas per second. Or 1,000 or 100 grams or 100 kilograms of water, which I didn't realize the water thing was so highly absorbed. Doesn't matter. What is important is you can never be 100% sure about stuff you get told or read or see on the internet or get, hear from, YouTubers in general. So you got to test everything yourself to be 100% sure. Otherwise, you're just spreading more information. I learned that from the decor stuff. I once said that decor maxed out at 120. It does not. It really doesn't. It was the way it was phrased by the game. Anyway, point being, what I want to do is test it to see if that's correct. Easiest way to do this is we have built ourselves a simulation of our current rocket chimney design. And then what we've done is we put some reglet, stacked that reglet up there, and basically we've simulated the same situation we've got going on our game map. And then what we're doing is we're pumping in 2.8 kilos of steam. This last one is flow control to 800 grams. These other two are just 1 kilo of steam being pumped in raw. So that's 2 kilos of steam there, 0.8 there. And the way this works is this should equalize. Pressure should equalize with 2.8 kilos of steam if just getting destroyed in the background of space. And the rest of it, the high pressure gas vents are not overpressurizing. They're just constantly flowing the gases in. Everything has hit a nice equilibrium. The amount going in is the same as the amount being destroyed. Problem solved, right? What if we were to just up that? Say, give me another, make that 900 grams. Now, does that change it? Yeah, that goes up to 900. We're using the debug mode to make sure this all happens instantly. Then what we do is we just speed up the game. And if our theory is correct, we should start seeing overpressurization. There we go. Overpressurize, overpressurize, overpressurize. Yeah, they can't keep up. And then we drop it back down again. It'll probably take a few minutes for it to stabilize, and hopefully we don't get any more meteor showers. Yeah, I really picked a terrible map to do this on because meteor showers happen, and those meteors drop carbon dioxide in here, and it really messes with your numbers. Oh, yeah, there's still... Oh, yeah, still a little bit of overpressurization, but they should even out after a while and then stop. Or worst case scenario, we'll just drop it to, say, 700. Then after a little while, the pressure should drop enough, and then we can put it back up to 800. Yeah, they're almost done. Have you got it all out of your system? All of it? That's good. And there we go. We're back to normal. So I think we can safely assume it's somewhere around 2.8 kilos of gas per second is what we're losing. And it turns out putting those algae columns, we put algae up here to make dirt on our actual save. And I think that was actually vitally important because otherwise the gas was spreading out either side. So this way we've limited the amount of lost gases to 2.8 kilos. That's not a lot. That's 1.5 steam turbines of steam being wasted. I can live with that waste considering what we want to do next. I just wanted to confirm this and be 100% sure. The other thing I just wanted to double check, this is the test map, it's got a lot of random junk in here, was basically walling these things in. Down here we've got, that's 9,000 kilos of pressure. Well, it's supposed to be 3,000 kilos of water pressure per tile, just to make sure there was no pressure damage happening. And you notice here, this one here doesn't even have a transit tube crossing, it's just 3 tiles of glass. Making glass is very easy, so it's usually the best way to entomb stuff. And if you have 3 tiles of anything in the way, it prevents all pressure damage. If you don't have 3 tiles of pressure in the way, you end up with this happening, where, well, okay, it might take a minute or 3 for it to kick in, but you'd end up with pressure, yep, there we go. It didn't even take a minute or 3, with pressure damage happening. But 3 tiles of anything, doesn't matter what the material is made out of, including glass, doesn't matter how much strength or anything it has, it could be sand, the water can't force its way through. So in that case, this should prevent us from getting pressure damage on our transit tube crossings, assuming we put in some glass tiles to prevent it. Now we just gotta implement... Ooh, actually, there's 2 other things I want to check. First thing I want to test is, can Nicola here show navigation? Yes, they can. I get to move to there. I just want to make sure they can pass through the entombed sections. You can actually come over here now. And now the question is, can you move to here? Yes, they can. So even if we freeze the map, our transit tube accesses will still work. I wonder if the tubes get cold going through it. You know what? Doesn't matter. There'll be in Atmos suits. It'll be fine. Okay, so we can freeze the map and we can block stuff in. That makes this next bit a little bit easier. Oh, yeah. And just in case you're wondering, this is heavy watt joint plates with like an entire map of water pressure on top of them. They don't care. Just they don't care. And over here, if it does become a problem, we can always put in glass on top of them. That break? What's the pressure on your side? It can actually break if it takes enough pressure. Oh, hoping the pressure wouldn't get that high though. Well, with that wonderful hope, let's move on. So, plan is we've got this area down here we want to seal off. We have molten glass been coming in. It's been restricted to, that's supposed to be 1 milligram. You know what, doesn't matter. We will immediately do some emergency pipe extractions here. Since the gas has been chilled down already and it's well below its solidification point, it should immediately just turn into tiles. Yep, perfect. We'll cancel you. Next. Grab the next one. Perfect. Next one. Done. And finished. We now have 3 tiles of glass rather quickly. Probably should have figured out more of a way to get this consistently at 1 milligram, but it doesn't matter. I messed up a little bit, but not enough that it matters. Okay, you. Sever that. Yeah, all of that can go back in there. Ooh, are we going to cool down all this glass? You know what? It doesn't matter. We can just destroy all this glass. We don't care about it anymore. And that is one more project finished that makes us just that little bit more waterproof. Everything below this line is now done, and we can seal that up there. That means finished all the way up to about the midpoint. I think there is... Yeah, it's like about here. We haven't sealed this area off yet, and we haven't sealed off these. But that does mean up until about this section here, the whole map is waterproofed. Just slow and steady, slow and steady. Now, I just want to start pumping out this mercury. Have it figured out a use for it. I mean, there's no real benefit to keeping it around, but I feel like destroying it would also be kind of wasteful. I originally was going to use transit tube access to get to our little shearing stations for all of the plastic production. But I thought it's so close, why not just wall it in? So we'll wall this in across here. There's going to be a airflow tile section that goes around here and up across the top. We're effectively just walling in a giant rectangle all the way around here. Up, well, okay, we'll go out a bit here and then all the way around the top and down. That should be the core base. Lots of space. We can do remodeling if we want to along the way, and it gives us a little bit of leeway if things go wrong or pear-shaped, which, let's face it, they always do. It's oxygen not included. You're going to forget something or you're not going to anticipate something. Over here, we've just put in a bunch of liquid pumps, and now we're just dumping all of the mercury into liquid tanks. There will not be enough liquid tanks for all the mercury that's in there right now, but once we've filled all of those tanks, we'll put down some more liquid tanks and store them in that as well. We're just trying to make sure that there's lots of free space for all of this water to fill. But next up, I want to take care of these vents over here. We've got one saltwater geyser over there, one saltwater geyser here. Now, this one produces about 3 kilos of output. The bottom one actually produces a lot more. And what we want to do is sort of integrate this into the steam tunnel, pump it full of geotuner upgrades, which will drive up the temperature to about 195 degrees, and then basically just dump the steam directly in here. And then we can extract it just using some of the steam turbines. Like, we already have steam turbines extracting steam directly from the steam tunnel. We know it's possible. So it should just be a case of getting some more steam turbines, extracting it. Now, minor problems here and there. Well, we still need to sort of keep the tunnel cool. And for example, here, we're cooling down the steam here. We're getting it down to about 200 C. But then when it goes past here, all of the steam is being extracted. There's no cooling being injected by this. So the temperature goes up a bit, and then it has to get cooled again here. Like, if we just make a lot of these extracting and not a lot of them cooling, the steam in here is going to keep getting hotter. And already it's a little bit uncomfortable in places. As well as that, the length of this tunnel means the pressure needs to rise really high before it's forced in here. You just got to remember that the steam can't get out here. Like, there's a limit to the amount of steam that can get out here, so the pressure just keeps building if you're pumping in more steam than you're extracting. So right now, that's like all of these steam turbines are getting active because of the sheer quantity of steam pressure. It's 50 kilos of pressure over here. It's barely making it to the end. So I think we're probably going to add another layer of steam turbines, maybe cut a couple off the end there and keep this area here for just, well, pumping water in. No. And that means what I'd like to do is something a little bit like a crossbreed. There is, down here, we have 2 steam turbines, and they are dumping water, their output directly in here. Now, this is an entrance and exit, which is why this was set up this way. Duplicants can go in and out. We have the 2 steam turbines here, and they are dumping down their output right here, which is cooling down the steam input that's gone to like 180, 190. So what I thought was, yes, why not just do something like that, just on a little bit larger scale? Like, take, say, this section here. We take this, we take one of these steam turbines and have it dump its input directly back in, and then the other 2, we get them to extract, so that we get 4 kilos of output, and these 2 kilos get recycled to help with a bit of cooling. Probably won't provide as much cooling as they're currently getting, but you got to remember here, we're injecting the temperature across, and the temperature here is only about 150, 160 degrees. We could be taking in 200 C steam directly. We might want to recycle 2 steam turbines worth of cooling, or put 2 of the steam turbines back in and only extract 1. But what we really want to do is, when we've doubled the output on this with all of our geotuner upgrades, this will be outputting 6 kilos of water. So we want to have, well, at least 6 kilos of water being extracted by additional steam turbines. So I'm thinking we take these 2 here and these 2 here and have them start extracting steam and have these 2 recycling it back in. It'll look a little something like that. So, okay, this one down here, we've got these 2, sent them all up to space, well, sent to storage, liquid storage, let's just say, and over here we've got the 2 kilos of output coming in and dropping right on these bunker tiles. We've got a temp shift plate above it with made of diamond to try and help cool down this area. And, I mean, the steam it's collecting is 200 C, almost just below the 200 C mark, which is perfect. Then we did the exact same thing over here, and you'll notice it's actually well below the 200 C mark, and it's helping to cool down this area as well. So I think that should work. I might want to re-engineer some of the ones that are pulling at 3 kilos to, well, re-input 2 kilos for cooling purposes, though I'm hesitant to start rejigging that just yet. Now, one of the other reasons you want to get this started is, well, pressure. Saltwater geysers only vent up to 150 kilos of pressure. If there's more than 150 kilos of pressure at the output point, which I think is about here, they won't output, which is why the liquid will go up to a certain height and then stop. there's 150 kilos of steam pressure in here. So we need to maybe decrease the amount of steam pressure before we start adding this into the mix. So another thing I'd like to do is, well, we made this too long. Okay, let me rephrase that. I made this too long. I'm an idiot. I made this. I should have probably stopped at 5 steam turbines. Going beyond that, it just takes so much pressure to get further on that it's overpressurizing the steam tunnel quite a bit. Like we got 50 kilos of pressure at the top. We should really be draining as much as we possibly can. So I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll put another 5 steam turbines right here, move this all down a bit, and then just have 10 steam turbines at the top here, like just sucking out the steam as quickly as they possibly can. This should be fairly quick, actually. The first thing we're trying to do is get all the piping out of the way. So we've moved all of the extracts or the dumping of water from here to over here, except for this last one now needs to go. Once we deconstruct that liquid bridge, they should all flow back here. That means we can deconstruct this piping here, which frees up the whole section for the creation of steam turbines right across here. In fact, I'm just considering, should we leave this? You know what? It's a vacuum out here. It's a vacuum in here. Let's get this started. Done. We have 5 steam turbines strapped on top to help out. And as well as that, the pressure here is already starting to, well, it was starting to drop a little bit. We're below 50 kilos in a few spots. And down here, where we want to plug in the saltwater geyser, well, we want to overclock it so that it gets too hot, starts pumping out steamy salt water. 6 kilos of it should be if we double up on the production. Then this place down here needs to be below 150 kgs of pressure, which it's starting to get there. Well, it's going to take a time for the pressure to stabilize in the tunnel now that we've added in all this extra extraction. And you can go as well. And what we're doing now is we're bringing online 5 extra steam turbines whose only purpose is to extract water from the system. And that's going to get... the sheer quantity of water on this map is starting to get a little out of control. All right. That should start draining the pressure out of the steam tunnel an awful lot more. This will sort of be... like, I was going to remove... not extract. Get rid of these last 3 steam turbines. If I remove them, we would have... well, we'd still be adding in 2 extra steam turbines, but I figure just leave them in there. They can act as a pressure overflow. If we're having too much pressure built up in the system due to whatever I mess up later on, then they'll be there to help out. But for now, yeah, they're all kicking in, and someone want to actually construct that. And the fact that you can use wood to make drywall, it's going to save us so much effort. Like, the thing is, last time I tried drywalling all of space, it basically drained all our igneous rock, all our granite. We pretty much ran out of resources just drywalling everything. But now we can just use wood, and we have vast, vast quantities of wood. Down here, there was... this was where we used to have our old ethanol setup. And, well, we'd been dumping all the wood from all of our floxes there. There's a lot of wood. There's still many, many tons of it that's still being moved. All I've done right now is I've set up a conveyor loader, and it's got a non-priority feed onto this line. You can see all this wood here. There's a whole bunch of wood coming from our currently existing floxes, and when they come along, they overwrite this. But when the conveyor rail going up to the top of the map, full of wood, is not busy, we start chewing through the backlog. Oh, and these airflow tiles, the fact that there's no granite behind them or no tiles behind them means that the gas pressure from out here, as it gets forced up, it gets pushed into the section, and then once it starts to go above 10 kgs, this opens up. This is on purpose. The reason we've left this way is, well, as the water pressure starts rising up, it's pushing all that carbon dioxide up towards the top of the map. And as it does, it gets more and more pressured, and we don't want it going above 20 kgs. You start encountering problems with some machines at that point, so we want to keep it around 10. So this way, we just have an automated pressure release for all of the gases in the system for now. Like, when the time comes, we will seal it up. But at that time will be when the water starts hitting this particular section. Until then, it's just a steam release valve, or a pressure release valve. Now, over here, how are you doing? And there we go. That's starting to extract steam from the system. And that should start eating to the production up here as well. How are you guys going? Okay, little bit of steam or water collected down here. That's fine. It's hitting all the backing plates, and the backing plates are sucking the heat out. It's fine. That stuff will go away. Give it like 5 cycles, or 10, or 100. You know, we've got time. It is going to take a while to flood the map. Though, looking at this map, I think this is actually the most water I've ever had. Like, even the ocean map did not have this much water on it, and we've created most of this ourselves. Like, this is all of our vents, all of our geysers, and okay, most of it's coming from the rocket chimney. Also, there was a whole bunch of ice on this map that we melted, but all of that going into this section it's kind of getting a little bit ridiculous. Oh my god. Ugh. And we're getting a backlog. Wait. Another reason I want to overclock these vents and feed them into the steam turbine is effectively throughput. You see, if we can dump these in here, what happens is we don't need to pump that salt water down to the geothermals. The geothermal is actually good, but not great. As in, all of the liquids we're pumping in, before we started overclocking our polluted water vents, it was fine. But now that our polluted water vents are overclocked, they can't live on the one input. They're plugged into one input because we need the two inputs for all of the salt water we have going along. We have 3 saltwater geysers. So what I want to do is cut out the 2 saltwater geysers, and then we can split up the polluted water so it goes into 2 separate inputs on this geothermal. Meaning we should be able to process all of it without any backlog, because I think right now we're losing some mass. Like this one's probably, yeah, that one's overpressurized. That is not good. I've even added in extra storage to get them between dormant phases. That's not helping enough. So we need to, well, feed this in and then chuck that on. Sorry, that was it. Feed this in and chuck that on. What am I thinking? Sorry, I may have been playing a while. Okay, once we get the salt water fed into the steam chimney, then we can start getting the polluted water and splitting up into 2 inputs on the geothermal. Up here, how are you doing? Yeah, that is going to rapidly drop the pressure. Probably going to need to leave it about 50 cycles or so just to decrease the steam pressure down here. Already down to 149, 148. Okay. Give this about 50 cycles or so. That pressure should have dropped enough that we can start tapping in the saltwater geyser. Another thing I'm going to want to do is, well, this one down here is going to be a bit more problematic. This one has an output of 4.4, and once we apply 5 geotuners to it, that's going to up to about 9 kilos. Well, 8.8 or 8.8 kilos. So we're going to need to extract another 10 kilos of liquid from the chimney to make sure we can keep up with that. And we need to get the pressure in here, which is currently 200 kgs, down to below 150. Say about 100 kgs to make that normal. And down here, if you've ever played Stalker, this is where all the anomalies are stored. If you can make your way down here, past everything, they say you will be the happiest duplicant of all time. There is plus 1,085 decor just from pristine fossils. And over here we've got plus 3,240 from a strange bricks. You know, the giant old mobile phone. There's well over, oh my god, there's so many thousands. The reason all of it's kind of pushed over here, or a lot of it is, meteors fall down occasionally and they cause them all to bounce. And when that happens, my computer does a little scream. It's like the whole game chugs, and I think it's the game is saving, but it's not. It's because a meteor hit all of these, and then the game has to figure out what to do with so many items. Just so many. There's no way to get rid of these. I remember these from the last time we did a rocket chimney, which was actually around Christmas the last time as well. So while this new addition does its job of decreasing the steam pressure down in here to something manageable, we're going to... Oh, yeah, I'm out of time. This was actually done over many play sessions. It's just the sheer quantity of little things you have to remember to do. Good times. Oh, and I think, yeah, the ethanol's draining quite nicely. We'll be able to get rid of that bottom row in a minute. But in the background, I think what I'm going to do is wall this place in drywall. In fact, this entire area here needs to be drywalled. Actually, yeah, that area too. There. Much better. The reason I'm placing ladders 3 tiles apart is installing is not the problem, it's removing. Well, you could use change deconstruct, but I try to avoid using too many mods. What we're doing here is we're just placing the ladder tiles 3 tiles apart. So then what we can do is once we've done in the top layer, we can delete this layer of tiles or ladders from this layer of ladders, and then we can delete that layer of ladders from the ones below it, meaning we could just chop them all down 1 block at a time. Otherwise, you're stuck doing stuff like this, where you start cutting out blocks and replacing them with ladders, or you have to slowly delete them from the edge, or... No, thank you. That just sounds like too much effort. Anyway, I am going to cut this out here for the moment. Next up, there'll be a little bit more flooding on the map when we come back in, and then we're going to start plugging in those 2 saltwater geysers that are going to be overclocked with geotuners, assuming that works. At that point, there's just a few tiny places left to wall in, and once they're walled in, that's it. We can just time-lapse it all the way to the end. I'm kind of... this is the dumbest thing I've done in a long time, and that's saying something. It's just water. Like, why do I always want a large water tank, and then eventually the water tank becomes too big, and now it's just a map. I suppose it's worth it. Anyway, I'm going to cut this out here. I hope you had a great Christmas, and good luck.